today's episode, we're going to dig into our origin stories and explore the good girl trope to better explain why we named our podcast after it. SJ, did you want to start, or?
I want you to start, because I feel like you were the true genesis of this podcast with your precursor to the podcast.
Yes. So my origin story with this is that as someone who was raised in a Catholic household, wonderful, very, very sweet parents, but very, very, very much so through all Catholic education, all that, never thought of sex as something to enjoy before marriage, to experiment different things, to see what you like, all that. And so the way that I was thinking about it is as actually like if you were raised in an extremely healthy household where no candy was allowed, and then all of a sudden you have your own spending power and your own independence, and you're in a candy store and you want to try everything. Or like TV, if you're in like a no TV household and then all of a sudden you're at a house that has TV and you just want to sit in front of it. Like for me, I feel like that was me realizing I could turn on Pornhub in my 20s and like all of a sudden Satan wasn't going to come into my bedroom and be like, I must take you down into the fiery pits with me at this moment. And
he
so
might have made an appearance. That sounds kind of sexy.
Yeah, he all of a sudden came and started using a vibrator on me.
It's like two-pronged, like double horns. I didn't even know what was happening.
It's an extremely sexy Satan came and was like, I'm so happy that I finally brought you to the dark side. But it was kind of
I love this
like...
romantic subgenre for you.
So it was kind of like an amazing thing where, one, I realized the world wasn't burning, but two, I had to learn, like, as, you know, in my mid-20s, what do I like? What am I interested in? And turn on some videos and be like, what on earth? Like, who wants that? Why does a guy shave his hair in that way? And, like, why does he have specific tattoos?
Did he have a landing strip?
Oh my gosh, when any, like, special thing is done with a guy's pubic hair, like, women are, I mean, I don't... It's great if you have it. It's just, it was not doing it for me.
You didn't want to land your plane on that strip.
So I was talking to a girlfriend, and this is before I had kids, about this. And she's like, oh, I watch porn all the time. I totally agree with your thoughts. And so we came up with the idea of doing like a science fiction movie 3000, where we
Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Did I misquote it?
I think that's what it's called. Anyway, we know. The one with the little, like,
the
robot
little
Muppets
aliens
that watch in front of the screen, and yes.
So the idea was that we would do that and then watch porn. To this day, I still think that's a great idea. I still think people would watch. I still think it's wonderful. And when we did it for a few, we had, like, pretty high viewership. And what was surprising to me is that, like, it was men. Men absolutely loved listening to our commentary. They were learning from it. They were doing everything. I would send
You were a
the
budding young
website.
sex educator.
It was basically like a cam girl, but I would send no, I was not.
On the other end of the camera, though, you were like the camera operator.
I was a narrator, and we were just saying things like, if her mouth does that, it is because it has a portal to another dimension. Like, nobody's mouth can take you that deep. Oh my gosh. So we were having fun with it, but when I would send the website to my girlfriends, they were always a little surprised, like, whoa, Kelly, you gotta give me some heads up before you send me a website that has actual porn videos on it. Was not in a place where I was expecting that from you, and opened it up. But this is, like, interesting, and I can now see how, like, the ones that you're suggesting are videos that I would like, and like a lot more than things that I've seen from other places. So I always thought that idea of, like, how to make it, it doesn't have to be porn at all. There's tons of problematic things about porn videos, and if I let myself think too hard about it, I want to, like, ban entirely. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that, but I do wish that there was some way that, like, women, especially, you know, in the younger 20s getting introduced in this world, could find some comfortable landing zone, so that instead
a landing strip, if you
will.
will.
A nicely shaved landing strip in, like, the shape of a shamrock, you know? Just to, like, okay, like, help learn about yourself, instead of me clicking around on Pornhub being like, what does this acronym mean? And then clicking and realizing what the acronym means. I mean, like, oh, whoa, like, not my style at all.
Yeah, and I think that there are so many things that I hear women have really candid conversations, and there still seems to be limits around things related to sex, especially if you were raised in a more conservative Christian household, that still feels like a taboo, even if you're very vulnerable and open talking to your friends about so many things, that there are still limits. And that was one that we kind of wanted to play with in a, you know, kind of semi, you know, our faces aren't on camera kind of thing, and be able to talk about it pretty candidly. My origin story is less porn involved in it.
Most are.
Yeah, but, and also, so I think I'm representing a different perspective on a conservative Christian upbringing, which is a more evangelical one. I was brought up Lutheran, but they're really conservative Lutherans that I think people don't know about as much, and because of where I lived in the country, where there was a lot of influence from evangelical Christians and the Bible Belt, that a lot of the church situations that I was in would sound very evangelical. I mean, there was a lot of like, the Bible is the literal word of God. Only men were pastors, things like that in my upbringing. So it's interesting talking to UK about the similarities and differences between a very evangelical conservative Christian upbringing and a very Catholic conservative Christian upbringing. But a lot of similarities, and I think mine was more a lot of rebellion in terms of more being an asshole and questioning things. Like, I think that I was just this, like, early angry feminist with no vocabulary and no way to channel, where other than I just sort of felt this low burning rage but couldn't explain it. And one of the earlier ones I remember was we had to make this artwork in confirmation class, and it was like this etched glass thing that would have your name on it, but the background behind it would be this etched glass, and you had this pre-cut stencil for you to do the etching around that said God's son. And we had a lot of, like, the Bible translations were all very
Not
masculine. Yeah, and I was just like, well, you know, like, fuck this Pastor M, who we get into talking about later. I'm like, I'm not the son of God, I'm God's daughter. And he was like, well, that's kind of, like, meant in this general, non-gendered kind of way. Like, we're all God's sons. And I'm like, there is a non-gendered word for children. It's children. So we got into a big fight over that. I had to sit out of confirmation class for a little bit after that. But I had a lot of early stories from about that age where I was just kind of like, who the fuck made that the rules? But I think the most curious thing about all of that is somehow that ended up being my origin story for going to seminary. But I think I've always kind of brought this feeling of I never have felt like an insider in the church, and I really liked learning about theology in a way that I could put a language behind some of these feelings that I felt and explain why when people would talk to me in high school about their concept of God as this like very judgmental white man with a beard that had a lot of opinions about what length of skirts girls wore to school. Studying theology helped me deconstruct that and have good arguments back other than I hate that and that sounds really dumb. So I think that's some of the perspective that I'm also bringing is like wanting to talk about the influence of Christianity on us, but not necessarily like have a theology podcast in one respect, because I think I was probably one of the least attentive students in seminary, so I'm not equipped to do a theology podcast, but equipped enough to at least be able to sometimes kind of identify and shine a light on where there is problematic theology behind a lot of the things that were the foundational parts of our upbringing.
I love how respectable and thoughtful yours was compared to mine. Was like, well, I always wanted to be a good Catholic girl. I just also had this other pull towards like I also liked going to parties and things like that.
Being I went to a lot of parties, so I think that is an interesting contrast between us. I went to a lot of parties, and yeah, I was definitely never a Christian good girl. I think I was called a bad influence on a number of occasions, but it was rarely in a sexual way. Like, I think sexually I was a pretty, like, good girl, not in, like, a spank me daddy kind of way. But I had no problem. I guess I was just not very curious as a kid. I was just too nerdy. I was, like, very obsessed with Star Wars and a bunch of other stuff that was just too nerdy.
So, I guess I kind of want to go into good girl as a term, if that's all right with you, SJ.
Mm-hmm.
So something that I find really entertaining from like my particular background, where I always wanted to be a good girl. You know, I never wanted a judgment under God, even though I got one or two, and I think that both were from misunderstandings, and I want to go back and argue my case to this day that they were undeserved.
You should have gotten a law degree so that you could go back and get those retracted.
Yeah, I wanted good grades. I wanted the teachers to like me and to think I was doing the right thing, all those things that part of me kind of loves now that I read smut, and I read smut from a variety of different worlds, how often the word good girl is used during sex. And I looked into this, and it's officially called a praise kink.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I kind of liked it a lot because Agreeable Celery 811 on Reddit described it amazingly as, if I'm being dominated, the little straight A student inside of me thrills at being told I'm the teacher's pet and I'll do anything to keep that status. And another person commented that I used to be academically gifted and all I have to show for it is a praise kink. Like this like line up between just like seeking like the validation and the compliments and the and a praise kink. But also what I like about it is that to actually ask for a praise kink or to get it in bed, you have to be so sexually comfortable and so at ease with you and your partner and know what you want and all those different things, that there's just something about that like dichotomy within one word.
Yeah. It's like powerful because you know yourself well enough to ask for it, and that you can want that can be your kink and you can name it without it actually being something that's like owning you.
And yet it comes from this place of like not wanting to, you know, wear your Catholic skirt in the wrong way because you didn't want your teachers to call you out. And yet all of a sudden you're here in like, you know, your 30s, your 40s, and you're like, so can you let me know I'm doing a good job?
We're all so complex and layered. It totally makes sense to me.
So to give you an example of like how widespread this is, Allie Hazelwood, New York Times bestselling author, she does strong female characters in STEM in her book Deep End. This is an excerpt. After the first time that she goes down on him, the character Scarlett on Lucas, he goes, "You did so well. You deserve to come. The problem is, I'm not sure you want it enough yet." Yeah, I hope you guys like my intonation.
This is a good man voice.
Yeah. And then in the next scene, he says, "You're even wetter than in the lab. Is it because I didn't let you come? Because I'm in charge? You want to be ordered around by someone you trust? Is that it? You want rules and to be told what's good for you." It's so patronizing, and I nod my life depends on it, half ashamed by the loud moan that slips out of my throat. And then next, and this is also a good one. Elizabeth Stevens, her books are quirky and wonderful. All superheroes need PR. Again, not like a BDSM book, not some like, you know, corner of literature, like a popular, easy to find book. He says gruffly, "You're good with rules, aren't you, Nessa?" I nod, feeling thirsty all of a sudden. "Whose rules do you like obeying, Nessa? Use your words. Your rules," I whisper, lust tittering through me in a way that I should find scary. His voice, his commands, ignite a side of me I always knew existed but never explored. The whole thing tell me, I like obeying your rules. Like a good girl, he says. Like a good girl, I whisper. Like, these are so common. They're in, like, all the books.
Yes, yeah. It sounds to me like approachable, like approachable BDSM. Like, it's like you want to be dominated, but like just a little bit. Or
Yeah,
just,
like
very
don't make
consensual.
it hurt, and like don't put a ball gag in or anything.
You just want to be dominated a little.
I was telling my partner this, and he's like, "Wait, is this like a cheat code?" He's like, "So if we just use the word good girl and say it in a certain way, like all of a sudden girls want to go down on you and like take you as deep as they can." And I was like, "Well, I don't like you calling it a cheat code for you." Like it's meant to be more like, "Oh, it's going to make you enjoy it more and turn on, therefore I will do it." If it calls it a cheat code, it's all out the window.
Yeah. And it's not to say like this is maybe not everybody's cheat code, you know, as well. So it could, or at the right time, you know, I feel like sometimes people want to try on different kinds of kinks, that the praise kink might be just for certain situations.
Yes, and it also takes a guy who knows how to do it do it right and use it in the right instances, which does not include my partner, because he'll just be more like, you're kind of stinky. Can you go take a shower? Like a good girl.
You're like, oh, damn it, I have to shower now.
Like, not in that instance. Yeah, it's more like in this instance. But, you know, I said that, you know,
but make it hot. Yeah.
Maybe by 2030 we'll get it down.
I'm excited for you to report back when he finally does.
Yeah.
He can spend the next year trying to perfect that as his cheat code,
it's like,
and then report back.
It's a role that you're supposed to put on. It's almost like you're an actor during that time. But again, I just think that there's something hilarious about the fact that it stems from this place of like how women's roles are in society are, and how we're kind of like raised to find some satisfaction out of, you know, others validating what we do, and yet it's come over into the sex world because it's not something I think that most guys naturally think about, yet it's in like all romance. It's so widespread in romance novels.
Yeah, for sure. Where this becomes more problematic for me is when it starts to cross over from this like kink that you're saying yes to just kind of dominating your role in life. And I think when it's a kink, that's something that you have identified, that you've said yes to. When it's just kind of influencing our everyday life, then we just have this kind of societal expectation of good girl. And maybe the sexual thing is even kind of turning it on its head a little bit by asking for it and kind of getting off on getting to rewrite the script for it. Because obviously all of those things that are happening in those examples that you shared, she's not being a good girl at all by the pure Christian standards that we were raised for. So I think we'll talk a lot in this podcast about purity culture and the way that it is difficult to be raised with this idea that sex is off limits and sex makes you dirty for your whole life, and then somehow just totally flip the switch once you've entered a scenario, which is usually heterosexual marriage, where it's acceptable that you can't really just flip that switch all of a sudden and unload all of your years of shame around sex. But I think the good girl trope extends beyond your feelings about sex and just into our expectations of how women and girls should behave.
Yeah, there is this paper by Williams and Titans, I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name, I apologize, and it's titled The Subtle Suspension of Backlash, a meta-analysis of penalties for women's implicit and explicit dominance behavior. So I looked at a bunch of different studies that were already out there and published, and I found that pretty much consistently women who do rebellious things like assert their ideas, make direct requests, and advocate for themselves are liked less, and they're less likely to get hired, and this hasn't improved over time. And that's a little depressing.
It is depressing. Is this just sort of like a general study, or did it also get into, because I feel like there's probably additional intersectionality there around race, furthermore.
It did not, but I can guarantee you that that's there
Yeah,
too.
because I know I've read some of the studies that were probably part of that meta-analysis, and I know that factors in even more. But even from my perspective of being a white woman in the workplace, I have felt this.
What's interesting is that I went into nursing because I couldn't even imagine trying to lead or manage or advocate for a team or all those things, because it felt very outside of the role that I was supposed to be in. I was supposed to be more taking care of patients very gently, and, you know, joke's on me, because if anybody knows bedside nursing, you have to be like an extreme tough badass to be able to get through your days. So I learned those skills. Thankfully, I was wrong about my profession, but it just plays such a big role. And there was one skill that I found, and it was things like, are you okay? What are your thoughts on a man being this role, you know, different roles that are more gendered, like a grade school teacher or a nurse, and versus, you know, what are your thoughts on a woman being a construction manager, and all that as a way to get feedback. And it's just still like all very much there.
Yeah, and, you know, we talked about the double standard in the beginning. I think that that's an example of things where this kind of stuff hurts men, too, because I do know men in nursing, and just some of the shit that they get of, you know, jokes about male nurse, or why we even we have a nurse or a male nurse, like kind of the same way that you have like a doctor or a female doctor, and it's like where we choose to
and it just doesn't even make sense, because if you're
term.
actually in those roles, like they're so tough and you're doing so many different things that the fact that we have made it gender just because it like requires you to be, you know, soft and caring to your patient is it's actually pretty
and then
funny.
we pay those physicians less too, because anything that does fall within that jobs that good girls do are also the jobs that get paid the least. But if you do the job that men do, then you're going to get paid less in that job. And like that study finds, you know, you're going to have a harder time being promoted. And so you can, I mean, it's kind of one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't. You can either act like a man, but then you're punished for acting like a man, or you can be a good girl and not get the opportunity for promotion or not succeed in those
and have
roles.
a lower salary. And then if you go into a profession that is a traditional good girl profession, you're very likely getting paid less for a variety of reasons. And then when you marry a person who makes more because they were put into a different thing, then all of a sudden you're in this like situation where you have financial inequality and you're trying to make your own decisions and make sure you can get your own time and do what you want. And that's in there, and ugh. So just thinking about the way that this is seen in media, what makes me laugh big time is that when Frozen came out, there was actually like some pushback to it. Obviously not a huge amount of pushback. It's like one of the most successful movies ever. It's two strong female characters, and they didn't really need the guy to save them.
Oh, yeah.
They saved each other, and their love saved each other versus needing a man to come in there.
Yes. But, though, I thought you were going to say because Queen Elsa's a lesbian. And on one hand, I'm like, if that was the intent, then like go Disney for finally starting to dabble in having some characters who might be LGBT.
But do it. Yeah.
But on the other hand, I'm also like, if we are just assuming this because it's like, oh, she doesn't have like a male romantic counterpart, then she must be a lesbian.
She could just be single and happy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But
I mean, open to both, but yeah, why are we assuming?
yeah, if you think about Snow White, you know, cleaning her little cave area for her dwarfs, or like all the traditional Disney princesses, you know, Cinderella was cleaning the house and taking care of her stepsisters and all that, and then got rescued by the prince. Then Elsa is out there as like your, you know, strong female character, and like one of the few ones in Disney.
Yeah.
Who didn't need a men's savior.
And yet immensely popular with little girls. So what does this tell you about we do need more, you know, we like
immensely
that.
Popular.
Yeah. Immensely. Like, how many years ago did that movie come out? And yeah, our daughters are still obsessed with it.
It's almost like she made the rest of the princesses popular for this generation just by being a princess herself. But like what they saw was the character taking control and making a castle. They did not see her leaning on some handsome prince who came in to save the day, which is just in everything.
When we were at Disney, I took the what Disney princess are you quiz while we were bored waiting in line.
Are you Elsa?
No, I don't even know if that was an option.
Brave
I don't
is
really
also
think I'm an
good.
Elsa. Which one?
Brave.
Oh, Merida, yeah. No, I was Tiana, and I really liked that one because she's an entrepreneurial small business owner, as am I. And I feel like also is another one where she doesn't, I mean, she kind of like saves him more in that one. But she's definitely not like a damsel in distress one.
You're right. They're doing better.
They're trying. They're trying.
Yeah.
Very slowly. So I feel like one of our big things is obviously Kay's love of all things romance, romantasy, and smut, which are greatly intersecting genres. So
It's an obsession. It's a problem. Yeah.
well, I mean, at least you're doing something with that productive, such as talking about it. And I feel like I have read very little in the genre.
But you now know so much more because of me.
Yeah, so that's educate me about this. So who are our good girls in the romantasy romance genres?
Well, so Sarah J. Maas, most popular romantasy writer, I would say, though Rebecca Yarros is catching up with Fourth Wing. And in all of her books, it is like a strong female character who's leading the way and who is the one who solves, you know, the biggest problem and all that. And really, in the one book series where it started off that way, and then the husband started to take more and more control and became more like he was a very clear leader of the household, there is a heavy sense of betrayal among her readers. Like, how dare, and we all know who I'm talking about, Sarah J. Maas readers, and there are many of us. Rhysand, you totally ruined Feyre, who was a strong, independent character. She hunted for her sisters, all that. And then this is, not to get a... She had a problematic pregnancy, and he knew that the diagnosis was going to lead to, like, a deadly birth, and he didn't tell her.
Giving birth to a dragon or anything? Was this the dragon's
a winged
one?
Child.
Oh.
Yeah, the child had wings.
Okay, having given birth to just a regular child, I do feel also concerned about her giving birth to this winged child.
Oh my gosh, I was reading...
With no other context.
So she was supposed to be told, but he's like, I can't ruin how happy she is. I can't let her know that, like, the baby's not actually going to fit through the canal. And then her sister had to, like, save her and bring her back from life. And there was supposed to be, like, no frowns to Rhysand. She's like, oh, well, I understand. He didn't want to ruin my happy mood. And Sarah J. Maas, I love you. I think that your mind's amazing. That was just such a character betrayal for me.
Can't all be perfect.
Yes, and I recently read one that somewhat goes on this front. I'm just going to share it real fast, I promise.
Yes.
Because it's a weird one.
I want the weird ones most of all.
For some reason, it's like a Beauty and the Beast. It was a Beauty and the Beast, like, spin-off idea where the girl goes to the castle and the guy is a beast. But for some reason, even though he's in his beast form, she can only see him as, like, the human he is inside. And they keep on saying, like, this is only a spell that's going to last for one day. So absolutely do not have sex with him in his beast form. Do not have sex with him in his beast form. And then she goes and has sex with him in his beast form. So, like,
no condoms
of course he's huge,
world.
all that, no condoms. And so then 9 months later, she's like, oh, and I have, like, my little baby with his little horns from the beast because I had sex with a beast. And that's why you gotta love romantasy. It's like, why? Who wants this? Like, who wants to have sex with a beast and then have a baby with horns? You know?
Yeah. Also, but this is where my mind goes, is the most problematic thing for me here, actually, was the amount of time in books, not just romance books, but this is also just a popular plot creation point, is people have sex one time and they are pregnant. This does not happen as much obviously it does happen, but percentage of one night stands in books that result in pregnancy, because they're like, what an interesting plot device, now she has her entire life affected by this behorned child, versus in real life.
She was very excited about the horned child, to be clear.
Oh, well, good, glad. I'm happy for her. Mazel tov.
Realizing once you started, when your friends started trying to have babies and all that they had to, like, time it right with certain times of the month, and that even when that would happen, like, cycles would still pass without babies. I was like, wait a second. Like, didn't we used to do, like, frantic pregnancy tests if we weren't sure the condom was on the right way?
Yeah, I had
there.
Eventually conceived through IVF, but I'm like, man, the amount of sex I could have been having with horned beasts and, like, no consequences. It's just disappointing to realize this when I'm 30.
Your 20s could have been wild.
They could have been. There could have been so many horned beasts, figuratively speaking, of course.
So, SJ... Since I know that you do not read the same dirty things as I do, have you been hitting any Amish romantic books lately?
Okay, so we were talking about the format for this episode, and I don't know how I somehow brought it up. I think because I've never actually read one, disclaimer. I will read one. Well, okay, no, I don't think that I will read one for a future episode.
I'll probably read one, but then I would all of a sudden become addicted, and the next thing you know, I'm
like,
I've read
addicted.
100 romantic
So I
books.
read an article about the genre in the Wall Street Journal, of all places, which basically summarized them up. Like all romance, it's very tropey, so I think I kind of get the picture already. And they are called bonnet rippers, like bodice rippers, but they're like Amish bonnet. So you're like, oh man, this is going to be so racy. And I know, Kay, that you were hoping that it would be kind of this, like, ultimate fantasy of the good girl breaking free and just finding her, sexual, passionate side. They're not that. No, they're very G-rated, but they're immensely popular, and even have some Amish readers, but the main audience is Christian women, reading them. And I think in part because it's a way to enjoy the romance genre without breaking out of your good girl. You know, you're not ready to break out of that, but you do love the romance. You love the Romeo and Juliet forbidden romance kind of aspect of it, but you don't want to break free. Yeah, so I think that you would be very disappointed by these. But one author's perspective on it was also that maybe it is a way of fantasizing, because, you know, fantasy can be anything, whether it's like fantasizing and maybe you do want that, but maybe you don't actually want it in your real life. You just want to be able to kind of explore in a safe way something that feels off limits or unavailable to you or even taboo. So obviously a lot of the ones that we talk about are more like, I feel like we get into joking a lot about these things where it's like this man behemoth beast body that is like, was what we're saying, like all these women reading it that we actually want to be fucked by a giant hairy horned beast. Maybe not. Maybe you just want a safe way to explore that. And so her point was, maybe with this, it's just exploring, fantasizing about things like rejecting modernity. Like, we don't actually want to go live without a shower and, you know, electricity and all that, but it's a fun thing to fantasize about, or fantasizing about being pulled out of this hypersexual world that we live in and just having romance in this very, like, old-fashioned, you know, safe kind of way, or even just like a rejection of our individualistic culture.
I'll probably have to read one just so that I know that I'm not interested, because I can probably do it.
Or if you are looking for a opportunity, because it seems like some parts of the romance novel market are very saturated, so I think maybe where there's an opportunity for you to break in with your own writing is to have the Amish romance, but the really trashy kind, where she suddenly discovers that she just likes being, you know, bent over.
I have to cross over my two books, and she wants to be a good girl. Yeah,
exactly. Amish bad girls. I think that there's room for you there. There was only one sexually explicit one that I found, and I do think you should also read this because it did sound fun. It's called A Forbidden Rumspringa. I don't know. I'll have to ask my I'll have to ask people I know from that part of the country. By Kira Adams. So this was I found it on like romance.io. They have like reviews of the books, and they're like, Christian ladies who like to read Amish romance, this is not it for you. They're like, this is sexually explicit. It's LGBT, so it's an Amish boy, like young man, like finding
so many
love.
rules.
It's breaking so many rules, so it sounded very naughty, and I do think that you should read that one and come back with a book review for us, and then compare it to. I do have a list for you of the top authors, including ones that are widely read by Amish women themselves, but like secretly under the bed covers because it's still racy by Amish standards. So I want you to read that too, so that you can come up with your outline for your Bad Girls Amish book.
So I recommended a book to my sister the other day that was just a really good fantasy book, and she texted me back, "How dare you recommend a book to me that has no sex scenes?"
You kind of expect certain things from me, okay?
She's the same, though she does recommend some that don't have any sex in them, and I'm like, I thought that we were on the same page, but I guess we aren't. So going into media archetypes, how is a good girl trope represented in popular culture? And we'll go ahead and say that the popular culture is not Kelly's smut, even though I continually try to make the argument like, this is way more widespread than we all realize. People love to be called good girls, but I'm not talking about that particular.
I do want to link the rise of that to the e-reader, and I mean before that you could definitely be reading your smut on the train, but you had to like surreptitiously slide it behind your copy of the Iliad or whatever. And now that you can just be reading whatever you want on the screen. I have definitely looked over when you're sharing a seat, you can still see what's on people's screens, and people are reading some shit on the train. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, this old lady kept on trying to talk to me while I was flying with my little son to Disney. You know, he's 5, he can't read what's on my screen, and she kept on trying to talk, and I was like, oh my gosh, I am in the middle of a scene and my son is distracted with his own thing right now, like you need to stop.
Yeah, you're really killing the vibe here.
But also the AAO3, I think, are like archives of our own. where there's a lot of fanfic. There is some amazing Hermione Granger, Draco Malfoy fanfic there, worth checking out. I
one
realize it's not
good
your
girls
thing,
with
but
one of the ultimate bad boys. I don't know, it could be. We'll have a future episode where I'll have to just get into some new. We sometimes talk about our 2 book clubs, or I don't. Yours is more of an online.
Mine's just like the amazing romantasy subreddit. I love you.
Yeah, exactly. Kaylee's online and is entirely romantasy and smut focused, and mine is like my book club that's reading like all the latest contributions to heavy literature.
Yeah, you all.
I need a break from that sometimes.
But I appreciate that you all go and you have intelligent, highbrow discussions about, again, these contributions to literature, these really thought-provoking things. And I just can't personally imagine sitting down with a table full of 8 women and be like, so what did we think of the final sex scene that we got? Yeah.
The motifs in this sex scene.
Yeah. Like, how big was the guy's penis described in this book?
I don't know. Then you can make a little chart of relative penis sizes for reference as you review different books. That seems helpful.
The one that I read over the weekend by Anna Huang. Anna Huang, I really, really love you, but I really wish that you would get off this, like, every guy needs to be a billionaire thing. It's just not a thing for me. And when it's like, yet another billionaire character. But he was so big that when they had sex, it felt like he was gonna come out of her throat, and I'm like, what? Like, what? Do you have like a 3-foot penis? Like, this is so unnecessary. So now going into media archetypes.
I distracted you.
I distracted myself. I meant to tell you that thing with it coming out the throat. What on earth? This is like I'm just imagining.
Sign me up.
I'm imagining like what's the colorectal cancer test that they go through?
Oh, colonoscopy?
Yeah, like the scope. Yeah. That's, like when you say like that a penis is that big, I'm imagining more like colonoscopy scope than like an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, I don't know, something like a pap smear. Yeah, where they're like jabbing you in the cervix with that little cotton swab thing.
It's like, did it break your uterus? I'm so confused. Like, who wants this? And Anna, that's not. You're amazing. I think that I really like your writing style. That's why. If you.
But again, I think a lot of these we may just like touch back on. Like, there's something about like using fantasy to explore things that are taboo and not have to actually experience them. You can enjoy reading about them without wanting to actually experience that in real life. Yeah. And maybe you do want to experience that in real life, and you should do that in a safe situation where there's medical personnel standing by to repair your punctured uterus. If you find
your guy who has a penis that is like, what, they describe these things as if they're like tree trunks, and you want to try, like, I hope you enjoy. Just ask him to, just tell me to be a good girl and put an ice pack on my pussy now. Because that's what you're going to need.
Get an ice pack for my pussy.
It's funny how Good Boy doesn't really work that same way, does it? I jokingly did it once last night. It didn't work. Don't worry. It wasn't in bed. I was just like, can you go get me a glass of water? Like a good boy. And he's like, never again.
I'm going to try this. Double standards again. If you don't like it being done to you, then how do you expect your female partner to want it done to her?
Actually, before I left the house, I asked my husband, I said, what is your number? I'm like, I have some guesses, but I don't actually know what it is. And he's like, well, what's yours? And I was like, I don't want to share because it's probably like higher than you think it is. And he's like, that's funny because I don't want to share because it's probably depressingly low. But it was funny how like I think that our number in reality is probably somewhere around the same place. But to me, it's like, ooh, pretty high for a girl. And for him, it's like pretty low for a guy.
That is that. There's that interesting double standard again. And you see that with the setups in books a lot where... if the girl, I think now you're starting to see more where the woman can have some sexual experience and still kind of come into the, that it's still acceptable. But I think that there's, again, the ideal number for the woman is still lower than the man's, and the ideal number for the man is higher. Like there are fewer examples where the man comes in kind of virginal and inexperienced, and he's the one that has to be taught, but I'm sure there are some good examples in there still.
I cannot think of a single example of that I've read recently where the guy is a virgin, but I'm going to keep Oh, there was one where the guy loved the girl so much that he was, like, waiting, and that was, like, the big crux of the book. But I think even in that case, he somehow, like,
Oh,
lost
I
their
did read
experience.
one. Weirdly, my grandma is very interested in this series, and has, like, a real attraction to the guy who plays the lead in the TV version, but Outlander. So I did read it because I was like, oh, what is this all about? Kind of lost interest in them after a few, but the first ones were pretty
Do
good.
those have sex scenes in
Oh,
them?
yeah, they have sex scenes.
Oh, my gosh.
Which makes it even more entertaining for me how
My
much my
family
grandma
loves it.
Yeah, for whatever reason. I think because it's, like, historical in nature, and it's not branded as smut, but, I mean, they are explicit sex scenes.
I can't, because my dad and my sister, who is, like, very shy and conservative, very, very lovely, but very shy and conservative, both read it almost together in tandem.
I can't read it. I found it
They're not listening to an audiobook together, but...
Yeah, no, it's like when you are, like, watching a movie with your parents because you're like, oh, this was nominated for an Oscar, and then it still has, like, explicit sex scenes in it, and you're like, oh, shit, I'm gonna pause this and slink out of the room. But yeah, definitely thinking of my grandma just, like, getting titillated reading these scenes, I was like, go, grandma.
One time, me and, like, a very good friend, very close to her, so it was like a family, her and I were watching a movie with her dad, and then all of a sudden there was an unexpected sex scene, and it was like, ooh, I just want this to be over. He's probably feeling very awkward too, all that. Not at all a creepy dad, just to be clear.
Yeah.
And he goes, ooh, she's like a member of the Itty Bitty Titty Club. And I was like, oh my God, can you never say that again? Like, we were just supposed to all pretend like we weren't watching this together. Yeah. So, a really big thing among media archetypes that you saw a lot, and I saw a lot of growing up when I used to watch more TV shows catered for, you know, teenage girls, etc., is the idea of the girl being innocent and sexually inexperienced, and she needs to be awakened by the guy. And you see that in movies, books, all that, catered for that age range. And I just wonder how much that plays into this idea that, like, your way to be an ideal woman for the love of your life is to be, like, virginal and
yeah, this gift that is for one man to open up, and that he kind of gets that experience of like instructing you in the ways of carnal pleasures.
Yes, I almost wonder, like, if we could do like a study. We obviously can't do it, but if we were, like, in our mid-20s and weren't with partners, you know, like, what would guys respond to more? You pretending like you're, like, hyper experienced, you totally know it, you really, like, want to have sex, you're gonna grab this, or you're like, I've never had it before, but, like, I really would love you to teach me. And, like, how do guys respond to those different situations, and which ones get a call back the next day and, like, a date afterwards, compared to, like, oh, that girl, like, went through the ringer, she's been with everybody, she's a village bicycle, so I'm not gonna do that again.
Although I feel like now there's also just more of a distaste for the extremes. Like, I do wonder in the modern dating scene, if you were like, this is my first time, I feel like I would be like, okay, whoa, that is, like, I was just, like, hoping for a nice little night of fun and not, like, instructing you in the ways of sin.
I wonder, unless it's just, like, still instinctive for guys. We are out of touch with the younger 20s.
We are gonna go ask our friends who are still in the dating world and report back on that one.
What they want to see. You see, like, you know, the girl next door as, like, being, like, a very sweet, safe girl, doesn't wear too much makeup, doesn't
She also
dress
doesn't know that she's beautiful, like the One Direction song.
Absolutely does not know that she's beautiful.
Oh, yes. And needs a man to tell her how beautiful she is, and then she takes off her glasses and she's hot.
Yeah, Taylor Swift wearing big glasses and being in the marching band, but having no idea that she's beautiful.
That she was hot. Oh, yeah, Taylor Swift loves to do that in her songs, like, especially her early songs of, like, she wears short shorts, I wear t-shirts, she's cheerleader, and I'm on the bleachers or whatever.
You've always been the cheerleader.
Don't think that Taylor Swift was just, like, going through high school as this, you know, painfully awkward and nerdy person. Taylor Swift, I think that you are always hot, and it's just, like,
always graceful and beautiful.
That's like when you see girls on, like, reality dating shows that are, like, super hot and just, like, more of that kind of stereotype, and they're like, oh, I've just always been the nerdy one, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but nerds everywhere disagree.
Yes, as a fellow nerdy one, I can tell you, we looked a lot different.
Yeah. We did not have any boys wanting to date us in middle school, thank you very much.
Yeah, it just definitely all came with this expectation that, like, your way to be a dream girl for a guy and as a super, future wife and all that was to be very sweet, very soft, virginal, yet eventually experienced, but not too experienced, just experienced enough.
But give really good head on your first try.
Yeah, just know exactly what you're doing. One of my friends said that her friend, when she went to go down on a guy for the first time, she just took blowjob literally. So she was literally like... And the guy felt bad. He's like, no, it's like very sweet. It's just that's not it. Yeah. Which, I mean, guys are much more clueless down there than girls are. At least for girls, there's a
I feel like there are a lot of men
apparatus.
doing the equivalent of that when they go down on a woman, but like also maybe the woman doesn't even know enough to tell them otherwise, and they're like, I guess this is just but based on the number of women who have by like a certain age not experienced an orgasm, there must be a lot of men out there that don't know what they're doing. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, boys are just out there in like high school and college. Like, I think that the best way to do it is to put a bunch of fingers in.
Yeah.
Like, deep
or just
and a bunch. Yeah.
Well, and you would get this from movies that you would think that most women are coming through just like vaginal like P&V sex. Which
Nothing else is needed. Yeah.
Yeah. For a lot of women, that's just not gonna happen.
We're just gonna jam straight into there, and also it's gonna be after a night of drinking when you're probably a little dehydrated, and it's gonna work great.
This sounds like a lot of college sex.
With our little plastic condom, it's gonna be the best sex you've ever had. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, but I think that it's kind of interesting because if we're talking about archetypes, then like talking about the religious upbringing that probably created a lot of this context for us. So it's really interesting to think how when you talk like in Christian mythology, it's always like the downfall of humanity is the temptation of Eve, and there's a lot of art and things portraying this of kind of this fruit, which fruit has a very sexual context, so it's not just kind of tempting it just kind of feeds into that the woman is this temptress, so who leads to the man's downfall, and often by offering him this very sexual fruit. Who was a better role model than
Mother Mary, who had never had sex before? Like,
exactly.
So you want to be Mary in the play.
Yeah, you have the opposite of it, and that's the ideal, especially in Catholicism, of being a woman is this. She's not just a virgin when she has Jesus. I think this was something I learned later about Catholics, is this doctrine of perpetual virginity, that she somehow maintains her virginity through all time, which
Joseph, come on.
Yeah, do the Catholics not think that because in like Christian history, Jesus had a bunch of half brothers.
And why was it even a thing? Like, why would it even be something that was like aspired to and had to be said that, like,
she's really like the only saint that gets to this level? And I think like many of the Catholic saints who are women are virgins, and a lot of them, they achieve sainthood by defending their virginity even to death. And so that's an interesting transition in Christianity in general, that with the Catholic Church, you had the medieval Catholics who were just like, sex is impure. So with Catholicism, you kind of keep all of this, that the way to achieve purity, or like ideal womanhood, is really by maintaining your virginity. Like, you can go become a nun, or you can be Mary, who somehow manages to have children and stay a perpetual virgin. But it kind of transitions in American Christianity, and especially evangelical Christianity, that the ideal expression of womanhood, of pure womanhood, is sex within the bounds of marriage. And that shifts from like that you should just kind of abstain for your entire life, which like St. Paul is kind of famous for, like, he has no reason for sex, also because he thinks the world is going to end within his lifetime. And then you get to the U.S. Christianity, and it is...
I guess as you as an ordained minister, I just don't get it. Like, why are religions so weird like that? Like, why bring sex into it? Why?
Yeah, I don't know. Because, again, like, we just are, I think, like, shame about our bodies. And needing to control. Because it is always different for men and for women, and especially in this, like, evangelical context. I mean, not that they're, like, talking up men having sex outside of marriage, but the language is still very gendered around kind of the ideal of biblical womanhood versus biblical manhood. And with the women, there is a lot more around sexual purity in there, and that's like the ideal expression But again, then you do get this, I mean, at least the Catholics were consistent with, like, sex is bad under all circumstances. Like, you should avoid it, have as little as possible. If you are going to do it, then, like, it's a necessary evil to continue the human race. Versus it gets more fraught and confusing with the Christian evangelicals, because it is this, that's where you get this idea of this switch that you flip, and then suddenly you are supposed to be very...
awesome for your husband.
Yeah, you're supposed to be just a mom in the streets, but a freak in the sheets.
Which is us.
That's us.
That's, so one of my college roommates, I came in and I don't think I realized exactly how much I was sharing or letting, like, my beliefs that I was raised with as a Catholic girl be known, because in my head I was just saying things that everybody believed and agreed with, but I was actually saying some things that if you were raised in a different society, different culture, would be like, what? This girl's, like, against masturbating? Like, what's happening? And so I walked in on one of my college girlfriends, and I noticed that she was, like, looking down, but I had no idea what was going on. And so I was like, oh, whoops, private moment, like, close the door. And then she came into my room afterwards and was like, I wanted to let you know that I was plucking my ingrown pubic hairs when you walked in. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't really think about it, but I'm sorry. And then I found out from another friend later on that she was actually masturbating, but she was too embarrassed to tell me because of the shame that I had accidentally, like, let her feel about those situations. And it's there's different things like that. The same way as I don't know, like, I feel like I used to have outdated views towards depression, and I would share them without even realizing that the people around me might have diagnosed depression, might be underneath treatment for it, and that this idea that, you know, I've been raised, like, it's very much like elephant in the room and other ways and all that when you're saying those things, and all of a sudden people feel less comfortable around you.
Yeah, I'm sure. That is a really good point. I'm sure that I spent a lot of time just sort of spouting off unexamined viewpoints that were just the things that I grew up with. And I know I definitely started off college that way and, like, learned a lot over the course of college. But it definitely just kind of came in spouting off viewpoints that were the things that had been indoctrinated into me as a child. And then later... And
you grew up with people who all felt the same way and all that, so you didn't even realize.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, like, credit to us for, at some point, like, examining those viewpoints, and now I can't really go back, and I'm sure, without thinking about it, I did all kinds of damage to people, or, shut doors that might have been open for people to feel like they could have a conversation with me about things, and then I very much gave off the impression that I wasn't... that I wasn't open to hearing those things, or that I was going to be judgmental or closed-minded about it. So that's been a big thing that I'm unlearning.
Well, hopefully people will listen to this and they'll feel open, or they'll go into their lives and they won't have people, you know, tell them that they're picking their ingrown pubic hairs and instead of
just
admitting.
Talk to you about their masturbation habits, and we can all talk about that.
She was really just watching a little video about a pizza delivery guy who had more to deliver.
It didn't quite all fit in the pizza box.
So, you know, be a good girl. Keep on listening to us.
Yeah. Good girls everywhere. Unite.
And we hope that you enjoyed this podcast where we explain a little bit about where we're coming from and why the name Good Girls, and our kind of different main viewpoints on different things that, as you can see, are not fully formed viewpoints. They're more ones that we are actively exploring. And we welcome you to explore with us. So thank you.